What has been revealed at the Japan Mobility Show? Which companies made autonomous headlines recently? And has Europe's green transition slowed down? This is the Automotive Update, presented by AutoVista24. I'm Tom Geggus, AutoVista24's editor, here with the latest edition of the Automotive Update. I'm going to take you through the last 7 days of major news from the automotive industry. First up, the Japan Mobility Show kicked off this week, with domestic brands coming out in full force. So here's a snapshot of some of the most eye-catching models. Toyota fired off announcements from all of its brands. A new Corolla concept previewed a future production model which looks to be available with a range of different powertrains. Lexus revealed something a little less conventional, a luxury six-wheel van, as well as a sports concept, both of which were electric. Also on its stand was the LS Coupe concept, an electric SUV. Meanwhile, Toyota's ultra-luxury marque, Century, revealed a coupe built to challenge the likes of Rolls-Royce. Elsewhere, the Honda Zero Alpha prototype made its debut. The Gateway model is expected to open the door for a production version in 2027. The carmaker also showed off its far smaller Super N prototype. Honda will launch a production model of the compact electric vehicle next year in Japan, followed by other markets. Mazda revealed an AI-infused model called the Vision Cross Compact, as well as a plug-in hybrid called the Vision Cross Coupe. Mitsubishi also revealed a PHEV crossover SUV called the Elevance concept, which introduces AI co-driver, personalizing the driver's journey. The new Nissan Elgrand minivan was debuted ahead of its launch in summer next year. The brand also revealed a refreshed Aria and announced the Patrol SUV's entrance into the Japanese market. Subaru showed off its Performance ESTI concept, a battery electric vehicle which will spearhead the carmaker's new performance generation. Meanwhile, its Performance B STI concept model features an internal combustion engine. And finally, Suzuki brought to the stage its Vision E-Sky, a mini all-electric model which the brand wants to commercialise in the next financial year. Autonomous technology took itself forward another few steps this week, with some major news coming from car makers and tech companies. But just before we get into the news, here's a quick refresher on the levels of driving automation as defined by SAE International. At level 4, the driver is not driving when the system is engaged and won't be required to take back over control. Now, at level 3, the driver would need to take back over control when requested. Then at lower levels, the driver is still in charge even when the systems are activated. So now for the news. Stellantis confirmed a collaboration with Nvidia, Uber and Foxconn. The four companies are planning to develop and deploy level 4 autonomous vehicles for robotaxi services across the world. On the other side of the self-driving scale, Nvidia is working with Lucid to deliver a consumer-owned level 4 autonomous midsize vehicle. A step down, ZF and Horizon Robotics have launched a driver assistance system in China, capable of going up to SAE level 3. It's scheduled for mass production and delivery in 2026 on an electric vehicle platform from a Chinese carmaker. Also this week, BMW announced it has gained approval for its driver assistance system featured in the iX3, in accordance with UN Regulation No. 171, which covers driver control assistance systems. The approval means the carmaker will be able to offer its motorway assistant driving with level 2 hands-off functionality in other models and countries in the future. Has Europe's green transition slowed down? Joining me to answer this question is AutoVista24 journalist Tom Hooker.
Hi Tom, great to be here as always.
It's good to have you with us. Recently, there have been talks around adjusting emissions targets in Europe and focusing on a more diverse range of powertrains, rather than just zero-emission vehicles. Do you think that the industry is starting to move away from its ambitions around sustainability?
It's a great question, but it's not that straightforward to answer, to be honest. I'll first respond to the 2 points that you made, starting with the emissions targets. Of course, we mustn't forget that earlier this year in May, the European Council confirmed that CO2 emissions targets would be amended, allowing car makers to meet an average threshold across 2025, 2026, and 2027. Then, if you fast forward to today, we're seeing the European automotive industry body ACEA proposing that the European Commission eases its rules on cars, vans, and trucks. Now, this has been met with similar calls from industry figures such as Stellantis CEO Antonio Filosa, who, according to Reuters, called for softer EU emissions rules. This topic was brought up at the Fleet Europe Days event last week, and by the way, you can check out more content from that event in the show notes. While I was there, I sat in on a discussion with Philippe Lamberts, member of the European Parliament and co-chair of the Greens Group. He discussed the ban on new internal combustion engine car sales from 2035 and the corporate fleet mandate proposal as well. Now, if you're not aware of this, because I believe it's a little bit less well known, it's a legislation being prepared by the European Commission aimed at supporting the uptake of zero-emission vehicles by corporate buyers. He talked about how, with regulation, there is a fine balance between putting enough pressure so that there's movement from car makers, but not too much so that it's a mission impossible. Lamberts also said that Europe's car industry has become complacent due to overprotection, and that technologically it is possible to meet the 2035 internal combustion engine ban with current technology.
So, on the other side of the coin there, was there much talk about all-electric powertrains at the event?
There was indeed. Many speakers showed that the share of battery electric vehicles is increasing in Europe. This conflicts with many car makers slowly stepping back their EV ambitions, most notably and most recently from Porsche. However, I don't think that this is a sign that battery electric vehicle progress will slow down. If we look at EV Volume's latest forecast, battery electric vehicles are expected to account for 18.8% of Europe's new light vehicle market in 2025, which is predicted to almost triple to 54.8% in 2030. And again, a shameless plug to check out our global EV forecast article on autovista24.com. This was also reflected then in the latest ACEA figures, where battery electric vehicle registrations in the EU have grown by 24.1% year on year over the first 3 quarters of 2025. And again, you can also read our analysis of these figures on our website.
That is a lot of good plugs, Tom. But I wonder if there were any other conversations surrounding sustainability at that event.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. There were many. 2 representatives from Kia and Zeekr discussed how they align efficiency, profitability, and sustainability in their European strategies. For example, the Kia representative highlighted that you cannot sacrifice efficiency and sustainability. They're on 2 sides of the same coin, while Zeekr stated that all 3 have to go hand in hand. Meanwhile, Polestar and Kinto Europe talked about how OEMs, leasing, and corporate mobility are translating sustainability pledges into measurable fleet actions. The former said that sustainability forms part of its overall business strategy instead of being something separate. There are a couple of quotes from Federica Claren, head of sustainability at Polestar, that really grabbed me that I want to bring up. She said, circularity is essentially the driver of all environmental problems, and that they did a study on the circularity performance of the Polestar 2. During this, they saw that to create a 2-ton car, they generated 57 tons of upstream materials. Claren pointed out that this, of course, doesn't add up, and the automotive industry won't be able to grow using this type of supply chain.
So with that in mind, Tom, and everything else you've addressed so far, has the industry's green transition actually slowed down?
Well, to finally answer your question, and I promise I haven't been avoiding it, I think in the short term, yes, the European automotive industry is not approaching a green transition at the same pace as initially expected. I want to use an analogy here. If there's a group of people pushing a boulder up a hill, it's going to be much, much harder if you're all going in roughly the same direction, but maybe each person is off center by a few degrees and some are pushing a bit slower while some are pushing a bit faster. I think the longer that Europe deliberates on this decision, it just postpones OEMs and policymakers getting their heads down without it playing in the back of their mind. But I do think that this strategic reset can have a positive impact in the long term to make sure Europe's automotive industry is all on the same page. And additionally, one of my main takeaways from Fleet Europe Days is that OEMs, as well as fleet and leasing companies, see sustainability as a much broader topic than purely just EV sales and emissions targets. There are growing discussions around things such as production cycles and indirect environmental impacts.
Thank you, Tom. Now, would you like to get more insights from Fleet Europe Days, including the impact of integrating AI and the latest battery trends? Well, you are in luck. Head to the show notes and you'll find links to Tom's other fantastic stories. And while you're there, sign up for our email. Just head to our homepage and scroll to the sign up form at the bottom. Check out our YouTube channel as well. There you'll find What Is Explainer videos, Launchport insights, and webinar recordings. And subscribe to the AutoVista 24 podcast wherever you listen to us. A big thank you to AutoVista 24 journalist Tom Hooker for appearing in and co-producing this episode. Additional thanks go to AutoVista 24 special content editor Phil Curry. The music was Better Find a Solution Fast by Richard Ames. Thank you very much for listening to the AutoVista 24 podcast.